Hi everyone. Welcome to our video on sleep hygiene for college students. We'll be talking about sleep architecture, circadian rhythm, common sleep disorders, sleep culture, misconceptions, and some healthy habits to help get your sleep back on track. Sleep isn't one long uniform state. Instead, it's made up of repeating cycles, each with distinct stages that serve different purposes. This structure is called sleep architecture. We begin with stage N1, the lightest stage of sleep. This is a transition from wakefulness into sleep. Heart rate and breathing start to slow, muscles relax, and the brain begins to disengage from the outside world. Most people don't even realize they've fallen asleep during this stage. Next is N2, still considered light sleep, but deeper than N1. Heart rate and breathing continue to drop, body temperature decreases, and the brain becomes less responsive to external stimuli. This stage makes up the largest portion of total sleep time. Then we enter stage N3, also called slow wave or deep sleep. This is the most restorative phase of sleep and is essential for things like muscle repair, immune function, and physical recovery. Breathing and heart rate are at their lowest levels, and it's very difficult to wake someone up in this phase. Deep sleep is marked by slow delta brain waves. The more delta activity you have earlier on in the night indicates that you have a greater accumulated sleep pressure. As the night goes on, these waves decrease, signaling that your sleep need has been satisfied. Finally, we reach REM sleep, the dreaming stage, and my personal favorite. Brain activity ramps up to levels similar to wakefulness, while the body becomes temporarily paralyzed. Heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing increase. REM sleep plays a major role in emotional processing, learning, and memory consolidation. Dreams typically begin about 1 to 2 hours after falling asleep and become longer and more intense as the night progresses. With this, when we wake up too early, we're not just losing sleep, we're specifically losing REM sleep. Daytime naps can also reduce how much REM sleep you get at night. Humans cycle through these different stages roughly every 90 minutes. With this, we briefly wake up at the end of each cycle, often opening our eyes and shifting positions before falling back to sleep.
Your circadian rhythm is the pattern your body follows based on a 24-hour day. It's basically the body's internal clock. Basically, everything is affected by the circadian rhythm. Sleep, temperature regulation, cognitive function, it's all connected to that system. This is important because sleep is essentially informed by a two process model: the homeostatic drive to sleep to offset the time that you're awake, and the circadian rhythm, which independently cycles through active and inactive periods. This rhythm mainly reacts to light, things like time of day, intensity, and duration, meaning things like early morning light exposure can disrupt this cycle. Other factors also have a smaller effect. Shifts to this schedule can be made, but they risk disrupting the circadian rhythm. This is why when you fly to another time zone, for example, you may still feel tired as if you're in your home time zone. There's also more permanent shifts like biphasic sleep, which is less sleep at night with a power nap in the middle of the day, or people who sleep in the day and work a night shift. This is important because when you sleep contrary to your circadian rhythm, it causes sleep debt, which can add up really quickly. It could take several days just to recover from an hour of missed sleep. Risks to sleep debt include diabetes, heart disease, and stroke, as well as affecting your cognitive ability. You might think just sleeping more would solve this, but it's also about how you sleep. Naps and fragmented sleep, where sleep is consistently disturbed, can lead to sleep debt as well. The shifts between modes of sleep, such as a regular sleep schedule but working a night shift per week, can disrupt the cycle just as much as not getting enough sleep. You can avoid the sleep deficit by improving your sleep hygiene and prioritizing a consistent sleep schedule. There are many common sleep disorders that actually end up being unreported or untreated due to a lack of knowledge and action. Two of the most common are sleep apnea and insomnia. Sleep apnea is a common disorder where breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep. The brain is prioritizing sleeping over breathing. There's obstructive sleep apnea, which is physical blockage of the airway, and central sleep apnea, the neurological failure to send breathing signals, and mixed, which is a combination of both. There are many symptoms, but the biggest and most common is snoring. It's a sign that your airway is very narrowed. If it is untreated, you can risk cardiovascular diseases and increase mortality. Fortunately, there are many options available. Another common disorder is insomnia, which makes it really hard to fall asleep or stay asleep throughout the night. Symptoms include trouble falling asleep, which is most commonly associated with disorder, but actually a very common symptom is consistently waking up in the middle of the night, even if you fall back asleep. Untreated, this can lead to sleep deprivation, which manifests itself in depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, and in addition to cardiovascular diseases. Similarly to sleep apnea, though, this can be treated in many ways, including CBT and medication. The bottom line of all of this is to notify a doctor or professional if feeling an issue with your sleep. It might feel like you're alone, but this is actually a really common issue, especially within our age range. Connecting with a professional early on allows you to explore all your options and make the most informed decision for healthy sleep. A quick note, you check with multiple doctors. A lot of doctors feel apathy to sleep deprivation because that's kind of what they're used to. But now knowing the symptoms, it'll be easier for you to push for a doctor to look into treatment for you.
Understanding sleep also requires us to understand how we communicate about sleep. Sleep culture are the shared beliefs, habits, and social norms that shape how a society values sleep and practices it. A lot of cultural influences include work and school as the top two priorities, a family structure, especially for new households. Social life and community habits can greatly affect how we view sleep on certain windows, such as the weekends or weekdays. Technology use has become more common in later hours, which has been a disruptor of sleep. In a lot of cases, that might result in scrolling or maybe working really late at night, sometimes even in bed. And that can cause a lot of blurred boundaries between work and home life, which can then disrupt sleep and sacrifice for quote unquote productivity. Although this loop ends up becoming very dangerous and can actually cause a lot of cognitive decline in performance. Even comparable to drunkenness at times. Did you know that 17 to 19 hours of sleep deprivation can actually be equivalent to a 0.05 blood alcohol content? And for 24-hour sessions, that can be even as high as 0.1%. So to pretty much summarize here, sleep can have a heavy impact on a reaction time and judgment to the point where it can be comparable to drinking. And that can be incredibly dangerous, especially for workers, drivers, etc. As for some common misconceptions, functioning on 5 hours of sleep, essentially less than 7 hours for most people, still can be very dangerous and reduce alertness and slow responses, as much as an increase of 84 milliseconds in reaction time. Um, as for catching up on sleep on the weekend, this does not fully reverse the cognitive effects because it still does not account for a consistent circadian rhythm, which is very crucial for good sleep. Um, as for alcohol, although it can make you sleep faster, it does fragment sleep and still has a disruption in REM sleep as well as circadian rhythm. Snoring is definitely not a normal symptom, and it can actually be a symptom of sleep apnea, which I strongly suggest consulting a doctor if you feel like you have these symptoms. And if you don't feel sleepy in the moment, that doesn't mean necessarily you aren't sleep deprived. A lot of the time, we aren't aware of it in that moment, and um, in those sessions, there still can be a very consistent cognitive decline if you're not getting adequate sleep on a consistent basis.
Now that we have a greater understanding of sleep, let's get into how you can set yourself up for the best sleep possible. Amount. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends at least 7 hours of sleep per night to maintain normal cognitive and physical function and to reduce risks like heart disease, weight gain, and diabetes. People sleeping 7 hours or less are also 4 times more likely to catch the common cold. But more time in bed isn't always better. Excessive time in bed can actually lead to lighter, more fragmented sleep. Sometimes, less time in bed can create a deeper, heavier sleep. Quality. Protect your bed as a cue for sleep. The bed should only be used for sleep or sex, nothing else. Optimize your environment. Keep the room cool to help lower your body temperature. Additionally, since caffeine has about a 6 hour half life, your best bet at quality sleep is to make 3 p.m. your last call for coffee or energy drinks. Timing. You can't force yourself to fall asleep, but you can force yourself to wake up. To shift your sleep schedule, focus on waking up earlier at a consistent time, not going to bed earlier. Your alarm clock should also be a backup. Set the latest possible time that you can stay in bed. Ideally, you wake up naturally, but overall, you should never use the snooze button. Snoozing drops you right back into a light, unrefreshing sleep and trains your brain to ignore alarms. State of mind. Create a nightly wind down routine. Reading, journaling, meditation, or writing tomorrow's to do list can all signal safety and closure to the brain. Keep tech out of reach or in another room. And try things like habit stacking. Be very specific, make it easy, and repeat it nightly. While you might not be able to follow these tips on a nightly basis, what matters most is that you're taking steps in the right direction for the best quality sleep.